I figured we'd wrap up the explanation of the timeline and how to use it as a tool for dialogue with yourself, because we want to get on to other tips. Like I said, for me, the valuable thing is to share that, not so much as detail by detail of things that happened, but share how certain things worked for me, helped me become a very active part of my therapy, and share bits and pieces as to a little bit of background. But those are simply just so that we can find a meeting or common ground, The past is in the past, and so what we want to bring forth from the past is the valuable lessons and the strength. We want to keep going with even more strength instead of depleted and living in the past. So the timeline, using it for that internal dialogue, you can begin to discover parts of yourself and why or when they could have developed or taken a different turn. And you can begin to know and recognize your energy and how that too began twisting and turning, and also being itself molded by the external as well as the internal affecting the external affecting the internal. The biggest valuable thing of the timeline is that we get to go in from a neutral stance. When we look at ourselves and we see perhaps, well, in every relationship that I had till this point, there was aggression or there was just lack of satisfaction. We can also take a look at the really good times, the great times. What did they have? What did they hold? What significant thing, or since when did you stop doing something that you really loved or liked simply because of? We get to observe, how we handled our anxiety at times as a child. And this, I mean, is when we really sit down to have those dialogues, those self-care, self-love, listening to me times. We get to these points where we go, oh, this was happening. And let's say it was abuse. Let's say it was molestation. Let's say it was a child that would come home to alcoholic parents. Or there was a woman that I worked with as a shaman in her healing process that her parents would inject her, basically, would force her as a 10-year-old to do drugs with them. And just the thought of walking home, just the thought of being at home, gave her a restlessness and an inability, if you will, to be at home. She never really felt at home as other people describe feeling at home. She didn't get that, she didn't know that feeling because from a very young age, home defined itself as something very different for her, or she defined it, etc., etc. You know, I make it worse. But she, there was this thing that she came to me with, and she went hypersexual. She was trying this, that, the other, and was it with men, with women? Do I want a relationship here, there? And finally, there was this solution that she found through that sexual exploration. But also, she ended up accepting that she always felt different, but not just with that, but with other things. And her path took her on and on to bigger and better things. But there was that resolution that had to be made, and that redefining, that rediscovering of what feeling at home meant to her. This happens to many abused, neglected, or early trauma people, where when the trauma occurs in the home, there's this, and it's not the partners, it's not what they're doing, or it is what they're doing, but really it's from the perspective that they're doing it. And that, no, you know what, you can't blame them. That is, they're not seeing home the same way that you see it. And the timeline helps us to have these conversations and to really look into our lives as to, oh, that's when I was doing that. And you also, for people that partied or that, you also can see times when you were like, I don't even remember most of that. I don't even remember most of that. And so you can look deeper and deeper and go, I was escaping. I was running away from something. I definitely wasn't in the now, because I don't even remember the now. And it's in big chunks of I don't remember. The timeline also helps us to see, times when perhaps we were really low and who was around us. And maybe, hey, have we lost track of them? Or why did that, and maybe at the time you weren't strong enough to value that person's presence. Or maybe at the time you couldn't have valued any presence, or maybe in the negative, who did you allow in and what were they like? And what did you allow them to do to you? And so on and so forth. It could be boyfriend, girlfriends, things like that. But it gives us a little bit of structure in addressing things that we should address. We should address. For severe anxiety and for types of mental challenges that sometimes occur with seasons, this was a very anxious time. Or someone might say, I remember I was trying to, they were putting me on this medication or that medication and all these things, and I was going, it just, nothing was working, and I was partying too, and I was this or that. So it was a very anxious time. And then we can look at why. Why was it a very anxious time? What was going on? What was the work environment like? Were you angry? Were you happy? Were you faking it till you made it? and go deeper and deeper. And then we can see in times of our lives when maybe we alienated ourselves from people that were right there for us. And remember, this isn't so we make a list of the crappy things about ourselves. No, 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 no. This is about getting to know ourselves. And if we were not, for example, able to even recognize certain things at a certain time, having compassion with the self and going, accepting, you just were not ready yet. You were just not able to see it. And filling that space of finding, well, do you feel guilty about it? Is there suppressed guilt in there? Is there, what's suppressed in there? Now that you see it, and having a lot of courage to fill that space that you have there, taking out the guilt. And we'll talk about resolving guilt and things like that, but taking out the guilt and giving yourself a lot of love. Because maybe you did have a friend that was with you and that just couldn't take anymore, and you just could not see it because perhaps there was an addiction, or perhaps there was too much youthful selfishness or blindness, naiveness, whatever. But just accepting it, okay, man, I was really selfish at that time. And filling yourself with love. Because, when people are selfish, they're trying to keep what they have. It's fear. Selfishness comes from fear as well. And also sometimes people are like, well, I have to look out for number one. I've got to look, okay, why? Because other people haven't looked out for me. Okay, good. Since when? Well, deeper. And at times during the timeline creating process, we'll get to those moments of epiphany, of the light bulb going, oh, whoa, this is where this is coming from. Wow. And it'll click, boom, 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 boom. Other times, it'll be different. So like the anxiety, for those that suffer from anxiety, sometimes you can go, I was anxious as a kid. And okay, so what did you do with that anxiety? I can tell you that when I felt anxiety as a kid, I would go towards an area that comforted me, or something that comforted me. And as far as the surroundings were always a thing for me. I liked the kitchen. I liked being, near mom in the kitchen. But there was a particular reason for that too. And art was my friend. I also loved art, which is why I shared with people in other social medias that when I lost a lot of vision, I felt like I lost my lifelong friend. I felt like I lost my art. I felt like, where is this? Where is this person? Where is this energy? And I almost think I threw a temper tantrum one time where we were going to sit and have a paint night, and I already realized that no, and other artists and great artists, Monet and so many others didn't have good vision, and I realized that, but it was me face to face and going, I can't do it, and the I can't crept in, and the fear, uncertainty, doubt. How am I going to talk with my art? How am I going to spend time with my art? And then I had to release the my part, and I had to embrace, just let the art be. And it took me a long time. Took me, I'm just now getting back into art and the whole digital NFT aspect. And the digital has actually helped bring that art back to me and me back to the art. But as I went through my timeline, I noticed how when I wasn't creating, something was going on. If I was not inspired to create, something was going on. At every period of my life, when I was not an active creator, some darkness was going on. If I couldn't paint, even though I had, better eyesight, and I wasn't painting those years, something was going on. Or if it was just excruciating to do it, then something was going on. Other times have been great times of learning, and I realized that I loved books, and those were the first escapism. That mechanisms, the art and the reading. But then they were paths that led me to myself as well. So as you get more neutrality going on in your thoughts, instead of accusing or so that, and I'm not saying anything is easy. I'm not saying anything is less complicated. I'm not saying anything that any of this doesn't hurt. But it does give you a great opportunity to get to know yourself and to give yourself love during those times that perhaps already passed, but that you're still carrying that emptiness or that anxiety deep within and not knowing where, when, how. And sometimes it is good. For me, I realized that a lot of what developed, or not only was I predisposed, or however you want to say it, genetically, there was anxiety and mental health in history in my family, but the environment definitely in that early childhood led to a very hyper, a very anxious, a very fearful person because of that early trauma. And then I can also see how, as a teenager, those early childhood experiences, traumas or whatever, begin. Those seeds or those weeds begin coming up. And then what are we going to do with them? A lot of times we don't do the best things because guess what? You're a teenager. And, no one here knows what they're doing, And so your parents and that environment, and you can give yourself a lot more of the self-love that perhaps was missing, as well as be that perfect mother and father for yourself that you didn't have. I can also tell you that, for anyone bipolar, for anyone with other more complex, not worse than, not better than, whatever, complex mental experiences, challenges, you can also see when your highs were and when were you very low. And you can follow that trajectory. Oh, these things led up to that. And so they also help you recognize things that are not good for you, that didn't really lead to better. Or how perhaps, for me, I say that now I want to take my time with the art. I don't want to chase the galleries. I don't want to chase the money. I want to enjoy the art because it was, it was something I didn't have for a while, and I really want to enjoy it and savor it. And enjoy and savor the fun and the goofiness, even of the, changing the hair color, changing the hair, all that stuff. I want to just enjoy it, enjoy who I am and where I am at this moment. No rush. Don't rush me. It's taken a long time to be at this. We'll do a little meditation next time. And I'm going to take a moment from recording because I've had classes today. I still do shamanism, and I still do one-on-one, not just the sexuality teachings and things like that, but also just one-on-ones as far as using the experience of being a death doula and helping people accept end of life and that glorious season if they already know they have a date. So I also work with other people that are accepting a new transition in their lives. But I wanted to add how to play with that timeline. I'll say more about the timeline throughout my time here in this space that I've created. And next we'll do some more chit-chatting and helpful things for that getting to know ourselves. And as we're getting to know ourselves, helpful tips for that really good mental health, mental state, wherever it is that you are in it, but a more peaceful or more calm. For example, for me, I know that my bliss state is not your bliss state. My inner peace is not necessarily your inner peace, nor does it have to be anything like it. So how to get to your own good, your own good. Not just I feel great. I feel good. You know what's up. I feel Gucci. Or whatever people are saying. Your own. Yeah. I like this. Much love. You like it? See, it's all messy. I don't know how it got this messy, but since I am doing this splashing, this was actually the top of the ice cream cone. Anyway, it'll be blonde for a while, just like when I went to Cali, the lion. And never take yourself too seriously, above all, as you're doing all this. Laugh and play.